Hi, Arrow.
How are you doing today, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Hold on. Wait a second. The lights are flickering. Your power is in my home. Yes. Oh, it really does work. You've got the power.
I mean, I'm scared personally when I hear that. Yeah. No, it's me. It's me. I'm doing that.
Oh, my God. The way that you put this together, I'm so proud of you for putting some humor, some just great information and experiences in this podcast, because I can't break free of it. I want to hear their stories.
Thank you. It's really fun because I play this character, Teresa, who's a dead influencer, and she's, stuck between worlds in the afterlife, and she's trying to get to heaven and get to have some peace. But in the meantime, she has to host this podcast. And so it has like a really fun, levity to it. But also all the stories are real people calling in, telling their real ghost stories that happened to them. That part is completely not scripted, and it's all true. So it's a nice mixture of fun and scary.
Well, I truly believe in the paranormal, and it's around us at all times. I mean, I feel like Russell Crowe sometimes in Beautiful Mind, in the way that we're always walking with something, and there's always a playful one, and there's always a nasty little ghost. But we all have them, and that's what I think is the reason why people love this podcast.
I think so too. I mean, I think people love to be scared, and they love horror stories and all these things. And also it's relatable because everybody's had some sort of experience. I mean, I know there are skeptics out there who are going to say that has never happened to them. But if you look at things a certain way, you can pretty much imagine that maybe it was a ghost that was connecting with you in that moment.
Wouldn't you say that your podcast coming out right now is one of those things that proves that Halloween is every day? You don't have to celebrate it on the 31st. We can do it every day.
Yes. And I love that because this podcast was launched in July. And I think that's great. I'm like, people want to be scared all the time. We don't need to wait until only October to be scared. So many of my friends are obsessed with scary stuff, and they watch it and listen to it all year long. You really don't need to wait.
These people that put together these true crime series, I think what they're going for is the scare as well. But at least when we tune into yours, it's like, okay, this is going to be great. It's going to be really playful, and it's going to be kind of tempting.
I agree. I think, I like a lot of true crime. I mostly will watch like true crime documentaries, but they make me more sad because you're hearing some terrible thing that happened to somebody. And it's just more scary, but it's also lighthearted because it's ghosts. Nothing is physically happening, which is nice.
One of the favorite things is on the show, I like the way that you banter in between each little story. It's almost like you're giving your listener an opportunity to break free from the last story. We're going to take you to another one, but first we're going to laugh a little bit. We're going to think a little bit. You're going to play with your voices in the background. And so you're adding humor before we jump back in.
Yeah, for me, that's really necessary. I think as a listener of stuff like this, like I need there to be a little bit of a break or something to shake it off. After you hear something that's really scary, you got to let that go a little bit before you jump into another one. So it's a perfect mixture. And my character and my moments are all scripted and written by Aaliyah Welsh, who's this hilarious comedic writer. She's so talented, and she directs the episodes as well. And she's just amazing. I love this character so much. It's so funny. And she created such a strong world for her that it's a really fun way to break up, all these scary stories that are actually going to make you feel nervous in your own home.
So do you just walk into the studio and drop your tracks like a voiceover actor like we do? I mean, in the way that, okay,
yes.
Oh my God, what a great job. Oh my God.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I love doing characters. I love doing voices. And because she wrote such a funny character, it's like it's all there. I mean, there's other jobs I've had where I'll improvise a lot within it and add a lot of my own humor. But her stuff is so funny that I just did not need to do that, which is a blast for me.
So now let's talk about the name Teresa, because I mean, most people, and when they pick it up, and they're not educated on it yet, they're going to think Teresa. So where did Teresa come from?
I think it's just that she's this influencer who has a little flair on her. So she wants her name to be a little unique sounding, like it's Teresa. And it's also fun to correct people about your name when you're like that. So I think that it's perfect. It's a perfect name for someone like that.
God, there's going to be babies called Teresa. I guarantee it.
Well, it makes me think of Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, who I love that show. Have you ever seen that show?
I've talked with her.
You have?
I have, man.
Oh, my God.
Man, to get into a conversation with her, holy cow. I mean, she takes you to a level of thought that you walk out of it going, what the hell just hit me here?
I bet. I mean, she's amazing. I love her reality show so much, but I know people who have paid money and gotten on long waiting lists to see her in real life. That's cool that you got to talk to her.
So now what's going to happen to you? What are you going to do if Teresa becomes a medium as well? Because when you're messing around with ghosts like this, you're invited into that atmosphere.
Now, I personally have no interest in being invited to that atmosphere, but if the character is, I can go there. I hope that by playing this character, I'm not unlocking something and getting into some world that I'm not ready for, because that would be a bad side effect of this, probably.
See, because that's one of my biggest fears, because I do listen to the spirit guides and keepers that are around us, and I do believe this forest I live in is, I'm here because they guided me here. So that's why I'm asking you. You are in that moment of sharing these stories.
That's true. That is true. I guess I'm kind of a conduit for the stories. I mean, I don't want to think about that because I'm scared. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's true. If there's any ghosts listening, I don't want any of what you are offering. So please go away. I mean, do you believe that you could just tell ghosts to go away? I think that is something that you can do. Like, I remember hearing you can like open windows and like kind of shoo them out, like you're free to leave. You are free to leave the space. All ghosts are free to leave my space right now.
You can't be that nice to them. You got to be mean. You've got to really be mean, because I do that all the time. Just the other day, I was thinking about, oh my God, my sister always complained about her neck hurting. Well, mine's hurting. My brother had problems, and I've got his problems. I'm going, guys, I told you, you can stay, but if I start feeling injury, go. You've got to go. and that's the way it is. And I can't write at 2:00 in the morning, because the ghosts that are there at 2:00 in the morning, get out. I need to sleep, guys. Go now.
No.
I'll talk to you in the morning.
Oh my God, that's too scary.
It is scary.
I definitely don't want to talk to a ghost at 2 a.m. That's too much. If I'm going to talk to them, I'd rather do it at noon.
Oh, right. Even that's too early. How did you learn the art of theater of the mind? Because it really does feel like that I'm sitting here watching you while listening to you.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, I think years and years of acting, you get into this world where characters come to life. I love doing voice characters. I love performing on animated shows and podcasts. And so this is such a fit for me to play this character and bring her to life. It's really fun to create a world where you can't see anything, because I think it gives people, the opportunity to use your imagination. It's something we don't get to do enough today with the way we're so plugged into our phones. We're not letting our minds wander as we used to. Well,
which is every reason why listeners should be listening to a podcast such as The Haunting on their way to work in the car, because it's entertaining, it's informing, and it's also, you still have a partner, because we all like camaraderie. Well, it's in this podcast.
I feel that same way. I listen to podcasts in the car all the time. I love it. I feel like I'm connecting with, I feel like I'm having a conversation with somebody when I'm just sitting alone, because your mind, you want to participate in what they're talking about. And with this, it's almost like an audiobook, because you're getting like a full scary story that you get to imagine while it's happening.
Yeah. Now, is that one of the reasons why you give listeners a chance to win things?
Oh, well, people can submit their stories, which I'm very excited about. I mean, you can, if you are listening and you have a scary story, you can submit it hauntingthepodcast@gmail.com and be on the show, which is so cool. I mean, the stories come from far and wide. They're from anybody. If you're out there right now and you're like, oh, well, my story is actually really, really scary, please email us.
What are you learning from this? Because obviously you're listening to the stories. I mean, and that's filled with a lot of emotion, the way that they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning that I'm very scared easily. I think that's my main takeaway. But I think it helps with that feeling of wonder in the world, where there's things that you can't explain, and I think it's more fun to look at the world that way and to imagine that there are things that we can't see that are happening around us. When people say like they don't believe in aliens, I feel like that's really closed-minded, because we have no idea what's happening in the universe out there. And this is in that same, on that same page. Ghosts are something that we haven't quite figured out. And there's a lot of people who are really, dedicated to studying them and finding them. And I think these moments that happen just naturally in life are really fascinating. It's an interesting little view into that world. There
are so many hooks on this podcast in the way that, first of all, a dead influencer. Teresa is a dead influencer. I can see people going to a Halloween party and they are, I'm a dead influencer. What?
Wouldn't that'd be so fun? You could put a whole Instagram border around your body and then have like zombie makeup. and like you're taking a selfie, and then everyone you meet, you take a selfie with. That's a fun costume. I like that.
but as a listener, I envision that you are dressed up, that you are playing this character, and you've got makeup on, and you've got wild hair and all that.
Oh, yeah. She's a fully formed person. I mean, I think Aaliyah, who wrote this, she's so talented, and she really created this like complete character who has a full life and backstory and personality. And I mean, I love that. I love that what you're picturing. I like to imagine that. I like to imagine that she's real somewhere in the liminal space.
Inside your creative imagination, and you know, because actors are always, they always say that if you see an actor at a restaurant in Los Angeles, that's an unemployed actor, and that they're always looking for something. But an episode, I mean, a podcast like this, I think you're going to get 1,000, maybe even 2,000 or 3,000 episodes out of this. This is long term for you.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, it does feel like it can go forever because people constantly have these stories and there's so many to mine from. So I would love that. You know, as an actor, I would love to continue to have a job for a long time. That sounds really fun.
Because, I mean, in a really cool way, you're taking a listener's journey or experience and you're helping them set it free by putting it out there, because it's no longer hidden in a book, a journal underneath the bed or up in the attic, because people that go through this stuff go through the experience and then keep it to themselves. You're inviting people to let it go.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think it can be really scary to talk about this stuff because you feel like you're inviting more or something. So I think you're right that by sharing it in this way, it kind of sets it free. It also gives it like, you know, you get to have the full life of the story where you tell it from beginning to end and captivate audiences with it and then let it go. I think you're right. I think it's good. It's a good thing to do. It's cathartic.
Do you get to hear the stories before you drop your vocal tracks?
Yeah, they send me stories, or they also send me the handwritten, you know, the written version, the typed out version, because sometimes it's too much for me to listen to. Actually, hearing people tell it, I get scared. I like to, but even reading it can be scary too. Reading a scary story, maybe that's even worse. I don't know, because you're imbuing it with your own level of imagination on top of the not even hearing a voice doing it. So I sometimes read them and I sometimes listen to them, but I do get to hear them in advance. I'm
glad you talked about the reading, because one of the things that I've loved about iHeartRadio is that the transcripts are there. You can sit there and be listening to it and reading it as well. And that this way I don't have to hit rewind as often as I used to, because you're right. I like to read it as well as listen to it. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's great that they offer that.
Do you find yourself doing other podcasts? I mean, now that you've realized, oh my God, this is a real authentic stage. This isn't a bunch of people that are out for a hobby.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm actually pretty big in the podcast world. I have a few podcasts. I have a podcast called Freedom with my friends Scott Aukerman and Paul F. Tompkins. We're all comedians, and we tell stories from our lives and just talk about what's going on, and we play games. It's a really fun show. And then I have a podcast with Nicole Byer, who's the host of Nailed It on Netflix, that show where people make gross cakes. She's so funny. She's a hilarious comedian. We host a show called Newcomers, where we watch extremely popular movies that we have somehow never seen. So each season is a whole new subject. So we started with Star Wars because we found out that we both had never seen Star Wars. And we're like, should we do a podcast of this where we watch Star Wars and talk about it? And it became a thing. So we did Lord of the Rings. We did Tyler Perry movies. We've done Fast and the Furious. We did all of Batman. And we're currently doing we did all of Martin Scorsese movies. We'd never seen Martin Scorsese movies. So like it's a whole range of what we will watch and talk about, and we'll, you know, analyze and give our opinions. And our opinions are usually ridiculous because we're coming to these movies so late in life that we're like, why is Star Wars like this? And everyone's like, it's been around for a million years. Why are you just catching on to this now? And we're currently doing sports movies that are really popular, like Rudy and Challengers. We're all over the place. So it's really, really fun. I love the podcast world. You know, it's a great world because you can create as an actor, like you're saying, we're so often waiting for our next job. And this is like a way to create your own art and put it out there without anybody bossing you around or making you wait for them to say yes. So I love doing podcasts.
I'm always fascinated with who is listening, because I don't know if you get into the analytics and stuff, but man, when you realize that you know your second biggest country is India, you're going, well, how can I put my focus on those that are living in India? And then you start looking at, I mean, it just blows me away what the outreach is.
I completely agree. It's amazing where you'll see where a listen comes from and that you're like, oh, somebody there is listening to my podcast. That's so cool. And also it's interesting just knowing what your demographic is. You know, when you're doing podcasts, you do ads and like it's based on who's listening. And so I find out like, oh, I have on this podcast, it's mostly men. On this podcast, it's more women. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, and I always have to convince myself that, okay, so today wasn't a good day. If you go by the numbers, you're going to die by the numbers, and you just can't do that. You've just got to keep going, keep pushing forward.
No. I barely ever look. I think I don't even know for most of my stuff what's going on. I try not to know. You know, it's like reading the comments. You don't need to read the comments on things. It's not going to be helpful to you. I feel like we should just turn comments off on everything, but that's just me.
I'm with you. But see, it seems like everything that you're touching, though, is something that's going to last a very long time. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm the fourth time of watching Orange is the New Black. And
cool.
I cannot get enough of that. And I'm getting the same exact vibe with Haunting. I'm going to start all over. And when I finish it, I've got to go back to the beginning and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, they have something in common that they both toe the line between comedy and drama, and like I think that that's something that people loved about Orange is the New Black, is that it's like it'll make you laugh, but it also makes you feel things, and this podcast has that too.
Yeah. So, what is it about you that draws you to these stories? Because I mean, you're a magnet. You're pulling these things to you.
I don't know what it is, and I'm scared.
Oh no!
No, I mean, I am drawn to this stuff because I like something that has a little weight to it. It's fun. I love to do big comedy too, but I think that there's something about these stories, like it's so grounded while also being, you know, supernatural and a little unreal. There's something so real about hearing a person tell their true story. Whether you fully believe it or not, you can go along on the ride.
Yeah, because in the things that you have done and continue to do, are you not a medicinal? In other words, it's like we come to you to free ourselves from what we're going through.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I really love about doing comedy. I get messages from people where they say like my podcast or a movie that I did like helped them through a really hard time. Yeah. And that means so much to me. I mean, I had somebody come up to me and say that, and it was like a grown man who was crying that a movie that I was in was so helpful for him when he was going through something that was really hard. And that touches me so much. It means so much to me to be able to help people in this way, because it seems so, you know, like it seems just so light and silly that it doesn't mean anything. And I think we, you know, as people, we know that comedy does affect you in a positive way and can help take your mind off hard things. And I think that's a worthy cause. So
what is Teresa going to do when you get that phone call from Comic-Con saying, we need you to be at this show?
I mean, then I will heed the call. I think it's a matter of figuring out exactly what Teresa looks like, but I would love to figure out that costume. That would be really, really fun.
God,
yeah. I mean, I think I need to have really long hair. That's my first thought.
But would it be jet black or what would it be? Would it have a streak of gray in it? Because I mean, I just picture her, you know, kind of funny looking, goofy looking, but at the same time, she's got power, and it's in her image that the power comes from.
Well, you know, I think she's an influencer, so she definitely has that air of wanting to look perfect, but she's not perfect, as we can hear on the show. So, yeah, I mean, I think the streak of gray seems like it would be something that would happen after you die. Like, you know, she's got her look down. She dyes her hair. She makes herself look perfect. But then when she is in the afterlife, then things start to go a little bit out of her control. That'd be fun.
God. All right. Where can people go to find out more about you, Lauren? And the thing is, and Teresa, because I want people to really fall in love with Teresa.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Lauren Lapkus and follow along with what I'm up to. And Teresa, you can listen to on Haunting which is available on iHeartRadio or anywhere you get your podcasts. So please listen, and please send us your scary stories at hauntingthepodcast@gmail.com. We'll put your story on, and that's a fun opportunity right there.
I'm going to have to do that because I'm that guy that will go and write where somebody lost their life, because I'm trying to help them free themselves from that corner. And
wow.
And the journeys that you go through afterwards and the transitions. I've got to get in touch with you.
Are you serious? This is crazy.
I'm very serious.
Wow. So you know, tell me more about that. You like go to a specific place where you know something has happened?
Yep. You'll see a cross alongside the road. Well, that cross is keeping them there. And I don't remove the cross, but I just go there and I write and I say, speak to me, speak through me. I'm here.
Wow. Amazing.
And so that's why I like talking with mediums, is because they understand it. They don't think I'm a freak.
Yes. That's so cool.
Wow.
I'm sure you've had some crazy experiences.
Oh, yeah. Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. Have a great day.